Vladimir Putin appears to be trying to project an image that nothing has changed, that he remains in firm control as Russian president, and the extraordinary events of the past weekend have not loosened his grip on power. Along with the new video of Putin this morning, we have new remarks from another top Russian official just this hour. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov is speaking publicly about the mutiny by Wagner Group fighters. He's quoted by a Russian news agency as saying Russian intelligence services will investigate whether the West was somehow involved. Lavrov is also quoted as saying a top U.S. diplomatic envoy told the Kremlin that the mutiny was an internal Russian affair. Now, CBC News foreign correspondent Chris Brown is going to lead off this hour, beginning with what Putin does and does not say in the video released by the Kremlin this morning.
There's no mention about the mutiny, the putsch, the coup, whatever you wish to call it, that happened over the weekend. There's no references to say when exactly this might have been videotaped even. So, I mean, looking at it, it appears to me it could have been done any time. And that's interesting because what it's telling us, what the projection is that everything is calm, everything's stable, go about as you were, nothing to see here. What's been so striking, I think, one of the many things about the last 72 hours was on the day when all of this was unfolding with Wagner and Yevgeny Prigozhin, how quiet so many of Russia's elites were. We did not see many of them coming out either in social media or making statements, rallying Russians to Putin's side. It was very, very quiet. And yet, when you look at what Prigozhin did down in Rostov when he seized that city, people were coming up, they were having selfies with his soldiers, they were serving them burgers in a Russian McDonald's, giving them coffees and so forth. So, you know, a man of the people for Prigozhin, but someone who's still very much cloistered away, doing his own thing, very distant from the people, Vladimir Putin.
And we have not heard anything from him or no idea where his whereabouts are at this moment. Can you, though, tap into the experience of your years reporting from Moscow and help us understand why it can be so difficult to get a clear picture, a true picture, on what may be happening inside the Kremlin, Chris?
One of the ironies, I think, of this, Heather, is that a lot of what we knew about what was going on over the weekend and even in the lead up to this came from Yevgeny Prigozhin's own social media channels. I mean, those were the ones that were, you know, spreading the information about initially on the Ukrainian battlefield and then the developments of all of the troops marching, driving towards Moscow. And of course, that's all gone silent now. We've not heard, as you said, from Prigozhin. We really don't know where he is. Is he in Belarus? Maybe, who really knows? And there's just not a lot of sources in Moscow anymore. Of course, Western journalists have been essentially kicked out, the few that weren't. It's too dangerous to stay. So we're really trying to read the tea leaves on a lot of, difficult sourcing, state media comments, and as I say, these right-wing bloggers, a lot of whom have gone silent now.
We've certainly heard from people in Ukraine, though, Chris, signaling they hope this is the beginning of the end of the war. I'm wondering what you think these extraordinary events from the weekend could mean for Ukraine's counteroffensive.
Well, probably no people were disappointed more that Prigozhin's forces stopped 200 kilometers south of Moscow than, of course, the Ukrainians would have been. Any kind of disarray in Russia's military is good for them. As best we can tell so far, there were no troop movements. Russia didn't rotate its forces. Ukraine really wasn't able to take advantage of anything in this relatively short window. The Ukrainians have said over and over again they had their game plan, they're following through it, they're being very methodical, and this kind of spike, if you will, wouldn't have necessarily given them a whole lot of opportunity to take advantage of it. However, big questions about the future of Wagner. Those are 25,000 troops. What's going to happen to them? Are they going to be incorporated into Russia's military? Will those soldiers go willingly? What kind of a fighting force will they be? And of course, also for the command of Russia's military itself, Valery Gerasimov, the General Chief of Staff, and the Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu, those two men were the targets of Prigozhin's verbal assaults and physical assaults as well. And everything we've seen so far today from Putin and the video from Shoigu seems to suggest that they're not going anywhere. So if you're the Ukrainians and these are the two top leaders you're up against, leaders who they say have, created a catastrophe for Russia's military, maybe it's not so bad that they're actually the ones sticking around.